Hey, it's Brad, and boy, am I happy you're here. If this is your first time, I'm really glad you found us. You're not going to be disappointed. And if you've been here before, welcome back. This is Pain to Performance. Let's jump into today's conversation.
You sat down on Sunday night, you wrote the list, you mapped out exactly what needed to happen. You were going to crush it. And then Friday comes around and you look at the list and almost nothing got done. And the worst part isn't even the unfinished list. The worst part is that voice in your head that says, "What is wrong with me? Why can't I just do the thing? Everybody else seems to have it figured out. Why can't I get it together?" Yeah, let me tell you something, guys. I have been there. And honestly, I hear some version of that story almost every single week in my massage practice. Right? So someone comes in with tension in their neck, pain in their back, headaches that just won't quit. And when we start peeling back the layers, what's underneath all of that physical pain is this: a person who has been running on overdrive, pushing past every single signal that their body is sending them, and beating themselves up because they think the problem is that they're lazy or weak or broken. But here's the thing, and this is what I really want you to hear today. What if the problem was never you? What if the reason you can't seem to get out of your own way has nothing to do with willpower or discipline, and everything to do with what's happening in your nervous system, in your brain, and patterns that were set in motion long before you ever wrote that to-do list? Today, I'm talking to someone who sees this every single day, way more than I do. She's a licensed clinical social worker who specializes in the exact thing I just described. That stuck feeling. That cycle of overperforming, burnout, and then feeling guilty about it. And what she told me honestly changed the way I think about productivity, motivation, and why so many of us are walking around carrying weight we don't even know we're carrying. Her name is Brianna Perry. She's the founder of Rooted Swan Wellness, and I think this conversation is going to hit you right where you need it. Let's get into it.
Hi, Bradley.
Brianna, welcome to Pain to Performance. I'm really glad you're here because I have a feeling this episode is going to make a lot of people feel seen. Right? So I want to start here because I think it sets up everything we're going to talk about today. All right. So when somebody walks into your office for the first time, what do they usually tell you the problem is? And then once you start working together, what do you find the problem actually is?
Yeah, so one, I'm excited to be here, but a lot of the time, clients walk in and they come in saying they're overwhelmed, they're stressed, they can't focus.
Yeah.
And so that's what they usually say. And then they'll throw in some like relationship challenges.
Of
So-
course.
So then we tend to unpack just a little bit and then find out that you're usually stressed, overwhelmed because you have a lot of things on your plate that you've either obliged yourself to have on your plate, but not necessarily need to be on your plate per se. Let's just say the things you have to do, maybe 5, but the things you told yourself you had to do were like 20. And the reason why I threw in the relationship aspect of things is because a lot of times they're not getting sufficient support at home. So that balance of the support that could be a little stronger in addition to what they are personally obligating themselves to do, it tends to be just this recipe for unproductivity.
And it's funny you bring this up. I can relate to everything that you just said in a way that I'm actually kind of mind blown about. It's almost like you described the session that you just had with me. So I'm going to speak for the listeners for a minute. I can almost guarantee that, or at least I hope I'm not, the only person that has exactly the same exact pieces going on as what you just described. So, and that's fascinating to me because from the outside, there's people who look like they all have it together, right? I've been told that a couple times, and boy, is that the furthest thing from the truth, right? So,
Mhm.
how does somebody end up in your office when the world thinks they're just freaking crushing it? Like, how do they end up coming to you?
Yeah, usually there's a breaking point, which is usually what I'm asking for in that presenting problem because they'll tell me they've been dealing with this for years. And then I'm like, okay, but what brought you here today? And so that's usually when we uncover the real thing. And so sometimes it's off the behest of an argument. Right. Or sometimes it's fear of losing their job. Maybe they just went through a review and then the feedback wasn't so great. And so now they want to find ways to improve because they haven't been able to focus at work and it's noticeable now. So there are cracks in the facade that begin to happen that they now end up in my office. Maybe they didn't handle a family dispute in the best way that they felt like they could have. It's so many different reasons, but usually there's a breaking point to that, like, as you said, looking like everything is all together, but this thing happened and now it looks like I don't have it all together.
And I love the fact that you said family issues. I want to sit with that for just a second because I think a lot of people go through the same thing, right? Maybe they think and feel the same way. Okay,
Mm.
what is it that you normally see come through the doors whenever we're talking about family, or maybe about that performance piece that you're talking about? What is it you normally see?
So I've seen a gamut of things because I specifically work with Black women in a lot of ways. I see a lot of divorces. So going through a divorce, but life is still lifing. I have small children.
Been there.
And now I have to carry it all. You've been there. I have to now carry it all, being a new mom, divorcing, and I still have to work my 9 to 5. That is, the demands do not stop. Um, what I'm normally seeing is that there was already an imbalance of things that were carried in the first place, and now this life change is now making everything um unfeasible to actually continue. Like the balls are no longer able to juggle in the air because this big so my mom is sick. I now have to take care of her and then I still have all these things that are expected of me. Like I said, divorce. I see a lot of just relationship dysfunction. Maybe it's beliefs that I don't need to support as my role in the relationship. Am a provider, so I don't need to support you in that way. And so then it's like I still feel like everything is on my shoulders, even though I'm married. So variations in that way.
I love the fact that you kind of, I love what you just said there. A lot of people will come in, and a lot of people that I've talked to, especially in my own experience in my massage practice, is that people come in and say, there's really nothing bad that happened to me. Is that something that you run into also?
Yeah, sometimes it's just nothing. It's just I feel like I need to talk to somebody.
I think that's how I started therapy. I think
Okay.
was feeling like I didn't really have anybody to turn to, even though I knew I did. But
Mhm.
there were pieces that I needed to talk to somebody about, but really couldn't quite form the words or the processes that I needed to do so. So I needed somebody to help guide me on that journey. And it
Mhm.
definitely sounds like that's what it is that you do all day. And what an actual gift that you are giving to people. Right, Brianna? It has to feel so good at the end of the day, right?
No, it does because honestly, and I don't want to derail this train at all, but I
Sure.
do want to
Derail it.
talk about the facts. I do want to talk about the fact that we have a chronic issue with listening in our society. And so that is what actually keeps me in business because people actually don't know how to listen. Like,
Mm.
there are people that are dealing with real things and they have support. They have support systems and people that love them. They have parents and they have friends, but those people do not know how to listen. They don't know how to
Sure.
listen properly. And what I mean by
Okay.
listening properly is that you can hear something, but people also tend to project, right? So, like, they don't know how to listen objectively, they don't know how to listen empathically. So they don't know how to listen in a way that actually makes that person feel heard, seen, supported, and even it's not even always about advice as so much as I just need someone to hear that this matters. So what therapy does is create a space to say this inconvenience in your life right now matters. Even if we don't solve it today, because we won't, because who would? But it does matter. So it gets attention. So at least 1 hour a week, you can say this very difficult thing gets attention, and then I can keep rolling the balls as they were for the rest of the week until you see me again.
So wait, you're telling me that I don't have to really have anything wrong with me. I can just come to somebody, talk to them about my problems, and can somehow work out a solution on those things. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely, because honestly, how the brain works, a little bit of neuroscience, is that a lot of times change doesn't happen if it just circulates in your brain. The only way sometimes change can happen is if you actually express it in an honest way without shame, which is another big piece of this is the shame. If you can actually express without shame, which is the room, which is the therapy space room is for, to share without shame, it allows you to actually change the perspective. And that's not just like therapy fluff. That is literally how our brain is designed. You get it out, it can be changed. As long as it's going around in your brain, it's not changing. The perspective isn't changing, you're not growing.
And does that have something to do with the fact that it's being challenged? Or is it just the fact that all it is that I have to do is vocalize it?
Both. So it's
Both.
the vocalization as well as it's being challenged, because sometimes it's not always, well, it is a lot of times challenged because we do a lot of reframing and a lot of additional questions, follow up and everything like that. But for the most part, it is the challenging, but even vocalizing it, because you're actually now speaking to your prefrontal cortex. And that is the area of your brain that governs how you feel about things, what you do about certain things. So, meaning when it's in your mind and say it's a negative thought, right? I'm going to not try to do this in jargon, but if it's in your mind and it's a negative thought, right? It's going to send chemicals throughout your body that says panic. This is a problem. This is bad. You should freak out about it. However, when you speak it out loud, that's actually why affirmations work in a scientific way. When you speak about it, if we can reframe it in a positive way, that actually tells your prefrontal cortex to send chemicals in your body to say, actually, you can work through this. Actually, this may not be as a big of a threat after all. We might be able to actually work through this.
Hmm.
But
So go ahead, keep going.
oh, I was just saying, so without that process, you never challenge and you never communicate to the prefrontal cortex that we can actually do something different.
Hmm. So it sounds like my brain really is just everything that rules my body, which we already know. we Most of us know this, but what about whenever let's go back to the story that I positioned earlier. And I do
Mhm.
this constantly. On a Sunday night, I sit down with my calendar, I start planning out the week, and boy, do I go to bed feeling so good about myself. I go to bed saying, Monday, I'm going to rock it. I'm going to kill this week.
Eh,
I wake up on Monday and, dude, I just don't want to, I don't even want to get out of bed. So
Exactly.
it- why? Why is this happening to me? I am so excited about it. Shoot, I even do this sometimes whenever I get really creative at nighttime,
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
creative. And that's where all the juices start flowing and I start overpiling my plate with these ideas of things that I need to do in the week. Why
Mhm.
is it whenever I go to start these things, I just can't even, I can't even do what's
Yeah.
happening?
So, a couple of things. One, we have to learn to accept that our bodies fluctuate daily. There is no level of productivity that you have just on a consistent basis. That's one of the, I think something's wrong with me comes up, because there's this like belief that Monday I was so productive. I did 10 things on my to do list. That means Tuesday I'm going to do 10 more things on my to do. And that is not actually how it works. Sometimes it could be for different reasons, right? It could be disrupted sleep. Like you just said, I have all these ideas in the middle of the night, and that's taking away from good sleep that you could have been getting. And now you're going to wake up in a mood, possibly. Or it could be anything you ate. It could have been a lack of exercise. It could have been overexertion because you did knock those 10 things out of the park. Now your body's like, now we need to catch up on the energy that we have. And so tomorrow we're going to rest. And so what happens is most of us, though, like I said, we knocked it out of the park Monday. So because our bodies fluctuate for whatever reason, chemicals, all the things, it's that fluctuation, but then we shame ourselves and it's like, well, what happened? Why am I not at 100%? And now we go out down this shame spiral. And now we're actually working against our bodies. Our bodies are saying, no, girl, we need more rest. Or no, boy, we need more rest. But we're saying, no, you should be moving because yesterday you just did all this stuff. So I don't know what's wrong with you today.
I love this shame spiral thing that you just brought up. I didn't really quite have a good name for it until you just named it for me. There is, I don't know about anybody else listening, but I'm going to speak for myself here. There is so many times that I'll try to complete all those things. And then all of a sudden I start thinking to myself, man, I'm not smart enough to do this. I can't believe I ever thought I could do it, and all it does is just drive me further into the ground. And now my body is saying, wait a minute, danger, danger. We don't want this. So then it just shuts down even harder.
100%.
What do I do? What should I do to be able to fix this?
Yes. So this is what I usually suggest to clients when they are dealing with that unpredictability of productivity, essentially, and your body is doing whatever it wants to do. I say, what is my least effort routine that I could do today? I am big on routines, which that would probably be a whole nother conversation for another day. But routines help you. Honestly, I look at routines as almost like your GPS system that you can do without thinking, right? And so you just put the address in there and then it just goes, right? So that's what your routines are. So it's say you don't feel like you don't feel like getting out of bed. Okay. Well, what's the least thing I can do? Can I get to the bathroom? Can I take a shower? Can I read something on the toilet? Like, use the time you have, right? Because those things are already built in. You're going to brush your teeth. You're going to do something that you always do every day, unless we're talking about severe ADHD, which is all another conversation. But for our mild scales, it looks like, what is the least thing I can do? And the reason is because sometimes if you can just get yourself in the shower, your mood might shift. And that feeling of not wanting to get out of the bed will start to wear off slowly. And so this is where paying attention to your body is so important. And also not just listening to your body in that sense. Because sometimes it's like, I don't feel like getting out of bed. Okay, well, what can we do? It's almost like a bargaining with your body. You're not ignoring, you're not ignoring your body, but you're bargaining with your body. Well, can we make it to a shower? If we can make it to a shower, does that mean we can make it to some tea? If we can make it to tea, can we open one email and just see how far you can go? I bargain with my body every day at the gym. I don't feel like going. Okay, well, can we put a set on? Can we put our gym set on? Can we take a shower? Can we get on the treadmill? Okay. And then somehow we end up doing a full out workout. So it's like,
I love this so much. I've never thought about this, but actually I've been practicing that, not knowing that, because there's certain days where I'm like, okay, I just gotta, if I just start to brush my teeth, it's gonna start to roll. My day is gonna start. Or if I get up, I go to get that coffee, instant dopamine hit in the morning time, right? I got what I wanted. Now I can start my day. Or whenever I'm trying to study something. I heard back in college in my undergrad that all I had to do was at least just put the book out there.
yeah.
If you put the book there, you're more than likely going to start reading it.
Yeah.
Or if I open up my laptop or my email, I'm probably going to start putting some emails out there.
Exactly.
All I have to do is just give myself the opportunity to do it. And that's what I've been doing. And it sounds like what it is that you're suggesting, it actually works. And somehow, like cognitively, it makes sense. So, but I could keep going on this, but I really want to try to bring this to life a little further. Okay. Because you shared a story with me before we started recording, and I genuinely have not stopped thinking about it. You had a client, and I think when people hear this, a lot of them are going to say, "That's me." So tell me about the woman who came to you because she just couldn't finish anything she started.
Yes. So honestly, this is the whole reason why I specialize in ADHD was because of her. So I was working in community mental health and I had a client and she was 62 years old. So in some ways she reminded me of my mom around the same age range. And she was coming to
Wait,
me
hold on,
because
real quick. She'd been dealing with this her whole life and nobody caught it.
exactly. And that is why
Oh,
this is why I specialize in this for that reason
okay.
alone. She went her entire life and no one made a connection that this was what was really going on.
Great.
That was
Continue.
wild to me, right? It was wild to me too at the same exactly. So she came to me, she was 62. Her chief complaint was I'm never able to finish anything I've ever started. And this was the part that made me really feel for her was the fact that her family is very entrepreneurial. And so they had a family business and she was responsible for different components of said family business, but she was never able to actually fully function in this business because she could never complete anything. So she had essentially always had dreams of being an entrepreneur, but she's never been able to because she never actually got a handle on how to manage focus and follow through. And so this is where it becomes a big deal, is because a lot of that is mired in stigma. And the stigma specifically is lack of discipline. You're lazy. Why can't you ever do anything? You must not be just, something must be wrong with you because how are all your other siblings able to function, take over different parts of this business, start their own businesses, be successful, but you can't seem to get it right. So
You see,
then,
that's the part that gets me heavily,
yes,
is
yeah,
just because from the outside, everybody thought that she was okay. She was just those things that you said. And sometimes I feel people think the same about me. And I'll tell you this, I am the furthest thing from lazy.
yeah,
I am a very hard worker. I am smart enough to do it. I mean, I've started a business, I've grown the business, I almost crashed the business, saved the business. I've done all of these things. And but yet I still couldn't figure out why I was having these issues. So you're telling me that her family just assumes all of these things, that
yes.
she's just lazy, can't do it. And then she finds you.
Mm-hmm.
What changed?
So a lot changed actually. So we really started to tap into her reward systems because a lot of it, well, most people with ADHD are dopamine deficient. And so reward systems are usually that first place that we start because if you have a lot of things that you're trying to accomplish, usually you're not having the dopamine to support it. So we have to rewire that belief or we have to rewire how your dopamine is being administered in your mind through your rewards. And so first we implemented reward systems that spoke to her. In addition to the business aspect of things, she also had some severe executive functioning challenges. So that's no laundry happening or whenever she could get to it. That means tons of clothes on the bed. That means the refrigerator hasn't been cleaned out in so long. So many things, impulse shopping, things are just piling up around the house essentially. So we had to create reward systems around not just her professional life, but also in her personal life. And that was the first step. And two was also getting her to-do list together because a lot of people with ADHD, this is why I hate when they say, just put it on the calendar. Okay, people with ADHD forget they could have a calendar. Are you crazy?
Oh my gosh. Brianna, the way that I have told so many people, I live and die by my calendar. I have to. If I do not, I forget everything.
Yes, once you get to a certain place in your coping, then you can get to a calendar. But a calendar is not the first step for someone with ADHD because we forget we even have that. We can write down everything we ever have to do for the rest of the year on our calendar. And then someone's like, didn't you look at your calendar? I'm like, what calendar? That like you have to get to that. You have to work your way to that point. So
It didn't work for me in the beginning. You're right, Brianna. It did not work for me. I was like, okay, I'll do this. Brianna, I'm not joking. At this point, I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 different calendars right now that is literally organizing my entire life. Does a lot of it happen? Maybe. But I know it's there and I know I can hold myself accountable. So I don't mean to back you up in your story here, but you brought something up about something that I suffer with, and I can guarantee you my listeners are also having issues with as well. That executive dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that for just a brief minute and then maybe try to segue back into the story?
Yes.
Because I massively derailed it. But I would love to learn a little bit more about what psychologists call executive dysfunction. Really, what is that? Define it.
Yes. So honestly, it's when you struggle to perform tasks around the home. So usually it's anything with a level of tedium, like folding clothes, washing dishes, cleaning up, things that require you to function around your home. You are not able to do these things because, again, lack of dopamine does not produce enough of a reward to say, why do I need to fold my laundry? So a lot of times you'll find what this looks like practically is that people will clean up when people are coming over, or people just won't have them at their house because they're too embarrassed. So it just depends on how bad it's gone. Yeah. So for some people on the farthest end, I've seen hoarding tendencies where you have no one come to your home because it's gotten so out of hand that you can't hide it. Or that's just enough dopamine to clean up for someone to come over. And that's on that milder end of things. Like, oh, okay, now I have the hyper focus to go and do all of this because I have a reward. Someone's coming to see me.
That is so funny. I remember as a kid, so my younger brother has also been diagnosed with ADHD. And he got that diagnosis at a very young age. I did not get my diagnosis until about a year and a half ago. I think I was like
Okay, right.
around 28 or 29. How I got through college is honestly magical. And me and all of my friends talk about that, like how much better I would have done if I would have understood my diagnosis a little bit further. But with that being said, my brother was diagnosed at a very young age. He my parents would do this thing where they found out that if people were coming over, he would clean his room.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would tell him that our grandfather was coming over, and he always did. And not only would our grandfather or great grandfather, excuse me, came over, he would look at his room and then he would give him a dollar bill. And it was just that positive reinforcement, especially whenever you're 6 or 7 years old. And my parents utilized that until he realized what was happening.
I love that because I never got that.
Neither did I. But what a really cool tool that they realized at that point. And now as you're saying these things, I'm looking back on a lot of stuff in my life, and it's kind of interesting to me. My ADHD didn't really surface until I was older.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if maybe it was there, but I was so hyper focused because again, whenever you're ADHD and you're doing things that you enjoy, I've learned this, you can easily hyper focus on them and you can excel at them. And the reason why you excel is because you're getting something from that. And so for me, it was music. It was school. So for me, I wanted the grades. I wanted to be able to do well. I wanted to be able to go to my recitals and not look like somebody that didn't practice. So I had the reward mechanisms there. But as I got out into my adult life, and I think it's so funny, I tell a lot of people adulting sucks, right? Adulting is hard. And the reason why is because we have to do things that we just have to do. And we don't like doing those things.
It's so hard.
And it's so difficult. And whenever I got into college, I would still, the reason why my dorm room stayed clean was because I didn't want to look like a slob to my roommate. So I had a reward mechanism for that one. Whenever I was in school with grades, at that point, I wanted to experience a little bit more of life. So I got more of a dopamine hit by going out to a party or going to hang out with a friend or going hiking with these individuals. So my school started to fall a little back because I wasn't really getting much of a dopamine hit there. Because again,
Right.
professors in college expect you just to do well. They don't congratulate you, right?
Mhm.
They're like, you're paying to be here. You should do well. You know?
That
And
means nothing to us.
it doesn't. And I know there's a ton of other people that can relate to this. I've talked to them heavily. They were all friends of mine. And somehow I graduated college. I did okay. I I somehow got the piece of paper. And as I got into my professional realm, again, there's those tedious tasks that we have to do that are just they're awful to have to deal with.
Yes.
But I would do them because my reward was my paycheck, but I hated doing it. And
Right.
I would procrastinate heavily,
Yes.
heavily. But then I was all of a sudden really, really, really productive. And everybody's like, whoa, this guy is so good. And I'm like, imagine what I could do if I actually understood my diagnosis. So
Precisely.
I can only imagine. I feel like the story that I just said is very similar to the one that that I interrupted you on. But it sounds a lot like this client. Is that accurate?
Yes, except for the simple fact that there was no late diagnosis in her 20s. There was no awareness to get access to resources. Like there wasn't
Hmm.
that thing that said, "You know what? This is what's really going on with you. So this is how you can get help." It
Interesting.
wasn't until
So what happened when she actually got the diagnosis? What changed for her?
Oh, yeah, so then she was able to actually implement the tools. Like, I love practical application, so now that she knew what was going on, she was like, "Wow, that makes so much sense. I cannot believe that after all of these years, this is what was really going on." And then on top of that, now she's able to use the tools because the thing is, behavioral activation is actually pretty plug and play once you actually have the tools, right? And so once she got them, we were able to check in. She was able to tangibly see, okay, I was able to do this, and then this was the response. I was able to do this and get started with this. I don't like doing this, but this reward. And so we had to dive deep into her interests. And once we align her interests or associated her interests with the things that she doesn't like, because that's all it is, you're creating a positive association to negative things, then she was able to roll. And then she was actually able to start her business and pick up where she left off. So she had like a sports paraphernalia business that she was actually able to function in and carry out tasks and clean up her house. Like she was able to show me the progress. I cleaned out the refrigerator. My husband took me shopping. I got my nails done. I cleaned up the room. I have my clients, because ADHD, again, very forgetful. I have my clients post things on the wall. So if your reward system, if these are your things that you need to do and these are the things that you want to check off, that's going on the wall beside your bed. So you can't forget it. And then it's going to be in your phone. And then it's going to be everywhere your eyes look, because we can get desensitized for saying things so many times. But the point is that she was able to show me her board of, this is what I have to do. These are my rewards.
Interesting. So here's what I want to do now. Okay. I think a lot of people just heard themselves and the stories that we just shared. I really think they do. And the question they're probably asking is, why? Like, why does this happen to me? Why do smart, capable people get stuck in this cycle?
Mm.
So let's break that down for them. I'm sure that you helped your client really kind of understand those things. Help us understand them now too. Why?
So, and I want to be specific. Are you saying, why do people have ADHD, or
Why are
why does ADHD impact you in that way?
the secondary? Why does it
Okay.
impact us like this? Why?
Yeah. So I like to call ADHD a disorder of self-interest. It is largely governed, well, one, and even further than just self-interest, ADHD is actually a neurodivergency. I don't know if people like actually know that. It is just a neurodivergency. And so it just means that the way my brain functions, I have to be operating in ways that are interesting to me. And that is usually due to a dopamine deficiency. And so when there is that deficient dopamine response, you're also neurodivergent in many ways. So it's not even just how your mind works, it's also I don't know if you hear that a lot of times people with ADHD will have spontaneous bruising. It's like
I see it all the time in my practice. All the time.
Mhm. Yes. So you can have spontaneous bruising. It's not just an attention issue. Like I think even the word ADHD is not really a fitting for like a fitting name for what's actually going on, but that's just what they have right now. But it's not just attention or hyperactivity, it's your entire system. ADHD is like in your cells. So
So, what's actually happening in someone's brain when they're stuck in that place? Because I think
yeah.
most people assume it's a discipline problem or a motivation issue, right? But you're telling me it's something entirely different.
So what's actually happening is that you've given your brain too much to do. In the most simplest terms, you've given it too much to do, and your brain said, "Oh, I'm not doing any of that." You
So,
have to give your brain little pieces, little breadcrumbs. And this is why I said bargaining earlier, bargaining with your body, because you actually have to give your brain tangible amounts of information that it can digest and say, "Oh, I could do this." So, like one of the most common phrases is, "I can do anything in 5 minutes." So like I use it, I think of like a microwave. When you're waiting for food to cook in the microwave, you see how quickly that goes by. You also have to do that with your brain. Like you almost have to give it tasks and microwave them. Like if you do this, can you do that? Okay, good, good. And usually I'll tell my clients to get started. One of our first skills in getting started is usually setting a timer for exactly 5 minutes. And say, for example, this is how I get people to do the laundry. So it's like, okay, you have a pile of clothes that have not been folded in a month. Give yourself 5 minutes to do these clothes. Now, you know, in your brain, logically, it's going to take you more than 5 minutes, but that's not the point. You're setting the timer for 5 minutes because guess what? You're actually just starting momentum. And they don't know that. In the beginning, they think, okay, if I'm going to start in 5 minutes, when I get tired of this and I'm bored, you can stop. And I give them all the choice to stop. So whatever you get done in 5 minutes, if that's 2 piles of towels, great, good. You can go watch TV after that point. However, what usually actually happens is that they get started in that 5 minutes and then like, I could do a little bit more in 5 minutes, or I could do a little bit more. And next thing you know, they spent 30 minutes folding all of those clothes because they really just needed their brain to opt in, not their body. Their body was fine, but their brain had to be like, yeah, I could do that.
I love this. So, it's so funny. I actually have heard you can do anything for 5 minutes.
Okay.
I've heard that. Okay. I didn't know that's where this came from. But again, what an amazing tool. So what I'm hearing is that I'm giving my brain too much to do.
Yes.
And what I need to do is to kind of break it down into just 5 minute simple tasks.
Yes.
Is that right? Yes.
Yes. Because
So,
what actually, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no. Please go.
I was going to say, because what actually happens is over time, once you've trained your brain on these 5 minute tasks, eventually your brain doesn't, you don't have to negotiate with it as much. This is like over time. So maybe like a few months in, you don't have to say, it's going to take me 5 minutes to wash the dishes. Your brain knows it. So it's just like, okay, cool. We've done this before. So it's nothing for you to wash dishes. It's nothing for you to fold some clothes. It's nothing for you to make up your bed because you've gone through this before with your brain. It knows it could do something in 5 minutes.
So we're Pavlov dogging ourselves.
Yes, that's exactly.
Yes. That's amazing. So basically, though, I also feel like it's probably a protection mechanism as well. I kind of feel sometimes whenever I hit that wall, my body is saying no. And body work and massage therapy, therapies in general, I tell everybody we have to listen to our bodies. If we do not listen to our bodies, they are going to act out. And that's where trauma is stored. All of these things get stored into the body. That mind-body connection starts slowly drifting further and further and further apart. So to me, it sounds like the brain is trying to protect me, but the way it's doing that is actually making everything harder.
Oh, yeah.
How does that
So
make
this
any
is
sense?
what's happening is that your brain, so with ADHD, a lot of the times, okay, there's so many things to this, but well, a lot of the times your brain is telling someone with ADHD you don't have time. For some reason, there's this anxiety that follows ADHD that says you don't have time for that. It's like, it's even though all you have to do is sit on your couch, you still don't have time for some reason to wash the dishes. You don't have time to make your bed. You don't have, and okay, I don't know if you've seen those like Instagram reels where it'll be like, I have to plan this whole day for my 3 o'clock appointment. Like you take off a full day for something you have to do at 3 o'clock because the anxiety makes you say, I have to prepare for something at 3 o'clock at 9 a.m. because this I don't have time message. And so one of the things that I train my clients on is reminding them you do have time. And so therefore I'm really training their relationship to time because the anxiety that you don't have time. So if you associate that with 5 minutes, it's like, okay, I do have time for 5 minutes. Yeah. And then once you really realize that you really start to see how much you can actually do before. So you can actually start getting things done. It's kind of like that mom that does everything before she goes to work. Like she starts laundry, cooks, and washes before she leaves out the house. My ADHD self is like, what? How do you do all these things before leaving work? That would
Yes.
freak me out. Right.
And it's so funny you say this. Brianna, I do that. I try to schedule all of my appointments and stuff earlier in the day because if I do not, I get nothing done.
Yeah.
Not one thing done. And it's almost like this impending doom. Or if I do start doing things, I then make myself late.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like all of a sudden my brain says, okay, I can get these 3 tasks done. And then I get really engrossed in them. And then the next thing I know, I have 15 minutes to make it to my appointment that's 30 minutes away.
Exactly. And I was just about to say that time management piece is already malfunctioning as well. Because you have either one or two things happening. You're either going to go really fast or you're going to go really slow because now you're hyper focusing in the thing. And a lot of times when you tell yourself you don't have time, what you're really saying is, I don't have time to spend as much time as I would want to spend on this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't have time to do laundry because I know it's probably going to take me 3 hours to fold these clothes because I'm also going to be watching TV and I'm going to be on the phone and I'm going to stop and get a snack. And then it's, and so because I know that's what's going to happen while I do, I don't have time to do laundry. Even though I was focused attention, it would really only take me 10 minutes.
That's incredible. That's exactly what happened. So I know that you work with all types of people that deal with this. And I feel like there's a stigma that comes along with it as well. Because even as I'm currently thinking in my own brain about this, I just aired out a lot of things that are quote unquote wrong with me. For the listeners that can't see what I just did some air quotes here. There is nothing wrong with me. I honestly think ADHD is a superpower because there's a lot of things that can be happening at once and I can be paying attention to all of them and somehow making sense of it. And I think it's a superpower. It's a little frustrating, but it is. And so, but I think there's a stigma that's held to this. And as I just told you all of these things, I am now in the back of my mind saying, wait a minute, your employer listens to this and you might lose your job over this. Right. And yeah, that's what the voice in the back of my head sounds like. And exactly. And I'm a little concerned at this point, bringing that forward and saying, hey, employer, yes, I have this, but I think it's like a superpower. Brianna, would you agree with that? Like, what do people do whenever they are in corporate hemisphere with a lot of pressure on them to perform? Yeah. What would you say to that employer that's listening right now about their employees that have ADHD?
Oh, yes. Because I deal with mostly the clients. So let me flip that a little bit. Maybe to the employer, I would have definitely more incentive-based ways. Like to reward their employees, and not just like, well, incentives that actually matter, right? So like if that means, for example, if you finish your task, you can leave early. Like there's no reason to sit here until 5 o'clock if I get done with everything I need to do at 4. Oh, honey, that's going to send someone with ADHD into overdrive. They're going to be like knocking things out, right? Or maybe not have that meeting at like 8 a.m. Like, let's have it at a reasonable time, like 10 a.m. Because someone with ADHD, one, they have to ease into life. They have to have a slow roll in the sense of, I need to check an email. I need to emotionally regulate for the rest of this day. So I might do lighter tasks in the beginning and then we can jump in, because a lot of times with people with ADHD, they start to jumpstart mid-afternoon. It depends on their medication schedule because sometimes they burn out by 12. But so it just depends. But the point is that ways to actually, one, tap into your employees' needs and desires, like how do they their ways of working, having conversation about their ways of working. When do you work best? Meetings in the daytime or meetings in the evening? Ask. Project-based work or work that I have to hold you accountable. Like, you know, if you create your own deadlines versus deadlines I give you, because it depends on the person. Some people are like, no, stay on me. If you send that email, yeah, I'm going to do it, because we don't like to fail. We're anxious. So therefore, you know, sometimes that check-in helps. It doesn't mean I don't want to do my work. It just means I need a little nudge. Or tell me clearly what things are priorities. Don't just tell me, yeah, all these things need to happen. Promise you nothing will get done. Tell me what's important. Say this thing really needs to happen first. And then if you get to this one, we're good, or not, or we're fine. But this one, as long as you do this, we're good. Promise you we'll hyper focus on that thing. You know, so it's like
And it's great. It's great that you say this, because I've worked in product, sales engineering, like technology sector. And the thing that works for me is setting my priority list every single day and saying, okay, if I get to this point, then I can have lunch.
Exactly.
After I'm done with that, then I know I have this meeting. So maybe while I'm on lunch, enjoying my nice little peanut butter and jelly sandwich, one of my favorite things to eat. And while I'm enjoying that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I might be taking some notes down of things that I know that I need to talk about in this meeting. So now at that point, I'm kind of habit stacking in a way, and I have found that that works for me very well. And somehow I'm able to perform how it is that I need to. And all of this has been through trial and error, lots of trial and error. So let me ask you this. What is one thing that you could give to the employee? You already gave some things to the employer, right? You said, employer, we need you to be a little bit more understanding. What we really should be doing is trying to figure out what works best for your employee. The way that I think about management, and the reason why whenever I manage teams, they do well, is because I realize that as a manager, I work for them. They do not work for me. And that to me is the basis of management and how it should be. Like service-based leadership always should be forward. And I'll digress on that because I can talk about it for hours. But
I can, because that's a whole nother conversation.
I can. And so, but what I'm hearing is that they need to be more of service style leadership to their employees, period. But they need to understand how that employee works, what motivates them. Now, talking to the employee, how is it that they could potentially bridge that conversation with their manager? What is it, things that they could do to maybe even, some people want to keep their ADHD under the table. What are some things that they can do there as well?
100%, because I also deal with clients who swear they don't have ADHD, and then I just treat them like they do. So this is for them. So typically, and I'm glad we're talking about work, because this is the first thing I usually assign to clients, are identifying your INCUP motivators. And INCUP is INCUP. So if I, which is interesting, N, which is novel, C, which is challenging, U, which is urgent, and P, which is passionate. And usually I tell clients to identify those, meaning I would identify all your work tasks, and I would try to align each of those tasks with one of those motivators. And if it doesn't have a motivator, there's a very likelihood that those are the things that don't get done.
And so,
okay. Yes. So if you have that new project, that's probably under the interesting, passionate side of things or challenging, right? If you have that thing that report that you have to submit every Tuesday that you hate doing and it takes you 2 hours, that probably doesn't have a motivator at all for in a practical sense, right? And so usually I have them identify the tasks that don't have one of those motivators, and now we need to create motivators for that in whatever clever little way, because this is also around the psychoeducation part of things that I off the rip explain to clients with ADHD, especially if they're newly diagnosed, that there's no wrong way to get something done. It just needs to get done. And a lot of times we have shamed ourselves for so many years, especially if you're late stage diagnosed, shamed ourselves to do it the right way. This is how this has to get done. So when it doesn't get done that way, that's where we shame ourselves, right? So if you take shame off the table and there's no wrong way to do a thing, it just needs to get done, then you can say, now I can be as creative as I need to be to get this done in the best way it can. I have people talking to rubber ducks saying, I'm going to teach you how to do this report from start to finish. If that's how it has to get done, that's how it has to get done. Or if it's, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes and then I'm going to watch my favorite show and then I'm going to get back to it, especially if it doesn't have a deadline. Whatever it takes, because the point is to get it done.
I love this. So let's say that I'm listening to this episode right now, and I go to research you, find you, and let's say that I walk in your door. Okay, what is the belief that you wish you could erase from my mind whenever I walk through that door? The thing that I probably believe about myself that is just flat out wrong. What is the one thing that you could erase?
I would say I would erase the shame, that belief that you can't do anything right because you don't do it in this prescribed way, that something is wrong with you and that you can't get anything done, that I can't, because you always have a choice. I like to say shame or should, shames, could, choose. And what I mean by that is anytime you add a should to something, I should be doing it this way. I should have been able to, you shamed yourself. You're shaming yourself. Could say, I can do it this way, or I could do it this way. And I usually ask clients to say, how do you feel in your body when you said, I can do this, or I could do this? When you gave yourself a choice, how much lighter do you feel in your body than when you said, I should be, and I should have did, and I should have? So bringing
So
awareness to that.
I just want to stop for a second. Okay. So, because I need every listener to really hear what you just said. Okay. So this idea that there's something wrong with you because you need help, or because you feel this shame. uh, That is the thing that is keeping us stuck, right? I see this every single week myself. It's in a different form, but I see it too. People come to me and they've been in pain for months, for years. So I mean, sometimes weeks, right? Because somewhere along the way, they decided that asking for help meant they were weak,
Yeah.
and they should feel bad about it. And
Yeah.
that belief, that's that's just one thought. It's just ultimately costing people their health. It's costing them their careers. It's costing them their relationships. And we just have got to stop doing this to ourselves. And my thing is I want to really drive home to listeners right now that what you just said about shame, that shame is keeping you stuck. It is keeping you stuck. It is affecting your health, your career, your relationships, everything above and everything around you. So I'm going to challenge the listener right now that is stuck in that shame to do something about it. And if you guys listen to like episode number 3 way back, I talked about this and challenged you, and I said, like, everybody's sick of hearing you complain. Actually, what funny story, one of my friends actually sent me a text message about that and said, Brad, I'm still going to complain and you're going to like it. And I was like, of course, I'm still going to listen. Everybody's going to listen, but it doesn't mean people are not sick of hearing about it. We can only complain about something for so long until we decide to fix it.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm sure there's a listener at this point that's saying, all right, Brad, I hear you, Brianna. I hear you. I see myself in all of this. Now what? What do I actually do? Because that's what this show is about, right? It's not enough just to understand the problem. We need to move forward for pain to performance. So, Brianna, let's get practical. Okay, let's get practical here. So, someone is listening to this in their car right now. If you are, please pay attention. Or maybe they're on a walk and they're thinking, this is me. Okay. I'm the person you just described. All of the things you just said. I'm that person that tries to use a calendar that can't do it. I'm that person that literally has a messy house and I wish I didn't. Or maybe they're that individual that has 5,000 tabs open in their brain and have trouble being able to focus on just one. What is the first thing they should do? Not the big scary overhaul thing, not the fifth thing they should do, right? Not the 5-year plan either, right? The first thing tonight, what should they do?
Honestly, I would say get clear on your why, because your why is going to drive all of your motivations. How we talked about INCUP motivations, we've talked about habit stacking, we've talked about all the doing, right? The why is going to be that starting point. And that's because that's going to really anchor your true motivation for what you do. And when I say your why, I don't mean the why that says, because I have to make money, I have to be a mom, I have to be a father, I have to clean the house, like your actual why. I love my family. I love the work that I do. Do you? Do you love the work that you do? So that's why the why is important, because you need to know, do I, or am I in this job because it pays well? Because a lot of people who deal with focus issues, they usually don't like their work a lot of the time, because it's not actually keeping them focused, right? So
Absolutely.
do I actually like this job?
And I love that. The focus, like, be clear on your why. Now, can you make that really concrete for me though? Like, what does that actually look like? Like, walk me through it step by step.
Okay, so when I say identify your why, then that's a reflective exercise if you want to have like a little bit of homework. So I would take maybe 5 sentences to reflect a narrative that says, what do I feel like I am designed to do? Or what is my purpose? I'm going to say this in a couple ways that may resonate in different people. So, what do I feel like my purpose is? Or what do I feel like I was designed to do? At the core of me, what am I driven to do? And what I'll say how that looks like is, even for myself, for in the beginning when I was in undergrad, I knew the core of me wanted to help people. Now, did that mean I knew how I was going to help people? No. I had a thousand different career paths before, not a thousand, but but the point is that I had no idea what helping looked like. Does that mean I'm going on missionaries? And does that mean I'm like going to be a doctor? Like, that's so broad, right? So, okay, when you first identify what your core design looks like, what am I driven to do? Put a smile on someone's face, help people, advise people, dance, whatever it is. Once you're able to identify that core thing, I would write again like 5 sentences. What is my core driver? Once you identify your core driver, then I would say, okay, now what do I like doing? I like to entertain. I like to speak. I like to cook. I like science. I like, and be okay with that, right? And so, and the reason why this is important is because a lot of times there's shame even around what we are designed to do, because we're told what we should be doing. You should be a doctor. You should be a lawyer. You should be X, right? So when you actually can be honest about what it drives me and what am I actually interested in, now you're on a path to why you do all the other things in your life. Why do you own a home?
Hmm.
Because I thought equity, or did my parents say that's a good investment? Right? Like, why do I do what I do? And the reason why this is so important is because once you can understand how you were designed, what you like to do, because that usually aligns with that design, then you're like, well, why are these other components in my life? Why am I married? Why did I have kids? Why did I start this job? Why are these my friends? And when you're able to ask and answer these questions, then you start to see, well, it's easy for me to hang out with my friends because I like these people. It's hard for me to call this person because I don't like the way they make me feel when I talk to them on the phone. It's hard for me to clean up my house because I never wanted a house this big in the first place. It was easy for me. It was easy for me to clean up my apartment. So
I love what you're saying here. And I just want to make sure that I bring this forward. Does this all have to happen at once? This can just be done small, little, tiny
just to
pieces, right?
start. It's just to start. Why? You're asking your why, how you are designed, what do you actually like?
And I
It's okay
think
if you say, okay.
I think this is the thing that people forget too, is you don't have to overhaul your entire life by Monday. Right? Small, consistent changes over time. That's the whole game. That's what Brianna sees with her clients. And it's what I see in my practice. I tell everybody I'm a massage therapist, not a miracle worker. All right. Hey, I would love for you to be able to come in and for me to just dink you on the head and be like, you're good. And whenever that happens, dude, I will be charging a lot of money for it because I'll never see you again. Right? What a bad business model. But the people who get better are not the ones who do something dramatic all at once, right?
We're just
They're
asking
the ones
questions.
exactly. They're the ones that do something small every single day. And it sounds to me that what it is that you just said, that one thing that they can do today, that defining the why, understanding those pieces, is that one small step for man, right? And one giant leap for mankind for us to be able to actually really start that process. And it seems like it's going to be something that's relatively easy. Is it easy for some of the patients that you've given this assignment to?
I would say for the most part, sometimes it is not because facing certain things, I've had clients, few, but I've had clients that had difficulty facing that question, right? And so I like that um journal prompt because if you find that your why is completely misaligned with how your life is currently, you might feel like, okay, I need to schedule an intake because I need to figure out how this is going to make sense because now I'm saddled with all of these things that I actually don't really want.
And I love that. And Brianna, I feel like this has been one of the conversations where I know people are going to hit rewind and listen again because I know I'm going to. And I've loved this conversation so much. I've probably got way too passionate inside of it. But but before I let you go, you just gave me a great runway to land this plane, and I'm going to take it. But before we go, where can people find you if they want to learn more of how to work with you?
Yeah, so Rooted Swan Wellness, that's do I want me to spell it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So Rooted, so ROOTED, Swan, SWAN, wellness.com. So that's where you can schedule to book with me, schedule an intake. I'm also on Instagram under Rooted Swan Wellness as well, all together. All of my platforms. Yeah. So if you wanted to schedule an intake, definitely through my website, email. I didn't know if you want me to drop my email.
That's totally fine. It'll be in the description, everybody.
Oh, okay,
I'm
perfect.
sure you have an office number as well. I'll put every bit of information as possible to be able to contact you. Brianna, you're probably going to see me. I know I'm going to send a lot of people your direction. And
Aw.
I'm just so extremely appreciative of the conversation today. It has been so much fun. And honestly, I've learned more about myself today than what I thought I could. So this is amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. It was a great time. Thank you, Bradley.
All right. Before you go, I just want to say one more thing. And I want you to really sit with this. If you've been walking around with this feeling that something is wrong with you because you can't stay focused, you can't finish what you start, you can't seem to keep up with everyone around you, I need you to hear me when I say this. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You definitely aren't weak. What you might be is someone whose brain and body have been trying to protect you in ways that aren't serving you anymore. And the first step to changing that is not some massive transformation. It's not quitting your job or signing up for a program or reading 15, 20 books. The first step is the one thing Brianna said. One small, consistent change. So tonight, not next Monday, tonight, pick one thing from this episode and do it. That's Pain to Performance.
Before we take off, one quick housekeeping thing. This podcast is for education and conversation only. I'm in no way a licensed therapist, doctor, wizard, and this show is not a substitute for care from a qualified professional. If something today made you think of someone you know, go ahead and do them a favor and send this episode their way. Pain is rarely a solo experience, and a good conversation is better shared. And if you're enjoying the show, make it official. Follow, subscribe, leave a review. It helps more than you realize and keeps this conversation going. Remember, the hardest part of Pain to Performance is learning how to listen. Now, I'll be here, same place, next play, and I can't wait to welcome you in.